Hello guys. Welcome back. So on this episode, we're going to be talking about what is social engineering and how we've been socially engineered. So first of all, let's see what social engineering is according to Oxford Dictionary. All right. So Oxford says that it's the use of centralized planning and an attempt to manage social change and to regulate the future development and behavior of a society. There's also another definition that states that, and that's in the context of information security, according to Oxford, that the use of deception and to manipulate individuals into divulging confidential information or personal information that may be used for fraudulent purposes. And I think we're all familiar with that. It's been something that has been rampant in this day and age. But yeah, we are going to focus on the first one. So, what exactly is social engineering? I'm going to be breaking down into four parts, and we're going to be talking about that. The first one, we talk about the foundations of social engineering and why there is a lot of social engineering. So, social engineering is more or less like control of the behavior by society, by societal body, by the government, or by individuals, right? And these are things that are done without you necessarily being conscious of what is done to you. These are subtle things that you don't think about, but you eventually end up conforming to it. So I read about something. There's a guy called Edward Bernie, and he's known as the father of modern propaganda, right? And he said something saying that the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the masses is an important element in a democratic society. And that makes you think a lot. What does that even mean? Because what we know is the fact that most people in an autocratic or let's say, what do you call it, a military regime or what so on, they are the ones who are mostly controlled in that sense. But if you think about it deeply, there are so many socially engineered programs and things that affect our behavior, be it in religion, be it in education, be it in politics, and all these things, right? These are things that even now in this day and age where technology has a greater influence in our life, there's a lot of digital, socially engineered things that are pushing us toward a certain behavior, a certain way of life, a certain way of even thinking about your neighbors, politically, a certain affiliation to a certain party and all that. And these are very, very important things that we need to notice. Let's take, for example, and I'm a Ghanaian, so I'm going to come from a more Ghanaian point of view, right? Culturally, you grow up and, they tell you not to, what would you call it? Not to question your elders, right? Not to do this. You're supposed to be constantly obeying without questioning. If you try and do that, you're deemed as disobedient. You're deemed as this. The question why is not supposed to be part of your vocabulary. Your position is to accept and obey, and whether it's good or bad it's yet to be determined in that sense. They have instances where it's been good. You have instances where it's been bad. I can give you good examples of social engineering. We can talk about, let's say, even the COVID situation that we were in. We were socially engineered to wash our hands and other things, which was good. I mean, no smoking campaign is also very good. And other few things that okay, these are things that might help us in a way. But coming back to my Ghanaian context, right? Let's go back to our education system. Our education system doesn't teach us, or doesn't engineer us, to be critical thinkers. It gives us the idea that we should learn. So there's this true and poor thing that's happening. We learn, we memorize, we write, and we pass, and we forget. And it's been constant all the way, even through our university times. And there's only I think in level 100 where you do a little bit of critical thinking. And that's not enough to break that hold on us, where we can say that we have independent thought, we can do things in a way that puts us on a very good trajectory in that sense. And we are seeing the results as we're growing up. People are we start questioning certain things. Why, in hindsight, when you have the level of hindsight you have, you start asking certain questions. Why was this way? Why was that way? But at that point, you were not thinking about that. And I honestly believe that our education system should change. It was born from a colonial mindset. I don't think our colonial masters didn't have, it wasn't something, for lack of a better word, wasn't something that was supposed to be beneficial to us. Looking at our system till date, ask yourself why are our female students cutting their hair? If you ask that question and you keep on asking why and why and why, you realize it doesn't make any sense. But it's still something. They'll tell you it's accepted. We have a case where, remember the Rastafarian guy who was almost denied what do you call it? Access to write his WASI examination because he had, Rasta hair. And if you think about it deeply, what has it got to do with his education in that sense, right? We come to the religious context. And when you come to the religious context, we talk about how we've been, it was one of the most important tools they used to subdue us. Whether we liked it or not, it's something that has been historically recorded, where they used us as a tool to be able to control and subdue us. When we look at global parallels, right? Look at the Chinese social score system. You're socially scored if you have a good behavior, in that sense, right? And even in America, whether you like it or not, the patriotism and everything is also something that is America first. America first is also some sort of social engineering in that sense, right? And one of the things that is very apparent for me that I've seen in the past few years that I would say I've been awake, or like, let's say I've started paying attention to what's going on in the world in terms of politics, in terms of our news, in terms of whatever it is, right? You look at what's happening in the West. There's a great divide in terms of, even in America, like talk about their political system, the Republicans and the Democrats in that sense, right? There's a proper great divide where there's not even a middle ground for them to, and it's getting worse by the minute, where you realize that, okay, one party, there's no intersection in terms of where they're going, and everybody is at loggerheads with each other, and it's a very worrisome thing, and which is being amplified by the use of social media. And it shows you a certain the algorithm shows you a certain thing, and it approves your biases in that sense. It approves your biases where whatever you think is right is what they are going to show you. It doesn't show you the other part of it for you to give yourself a level of, okay, I have these two things. Let me analyze them by myself to make a decision. But no, it gives you one point and it keeps on feeding you that, and it becomes unconsciously part of your thinking, your mindset and everything. And I can see that happening in our country. I know social media has been very late in here, but it's also been very prevalent. We used to be, even in our politics, right? In our political era, most of the radio stations and other things have been owned by all these political parties and political individuals, right? So they keep on preaching a certain rhetoric where listeners who listen to it daily stick to that rhetoric. It was like, okay, this is the reason why this is happening. And you can see the current segregation which has been happening. We have a two major party system. We have other parties as well, but these two major party systems have been in power for let's say 30 years now, or more than 30 years now. And there have been instances where you can tell that this is something that it doesn't necessarily, especially if you have an independent thought, where you see things from an outside perspective, where you don't see both parties as you see what they are doing in terms of how they are socially engineering people to believe in a certain way, right? And you realize how worrisome these types of things are, and how we should be able to find a way to get out of it so we can make an independent decision that will be better for our future and our future generations. Let's zoom in on social media, right? There was a research done in 2018 by MIT, and they said that people are 4 times more likely to share emotionally charged misinformation than neutral facts. And these examples can be, even in our country, right? You can see how people, especially on these political divides, you listen. It's mostly, if you listen to certain rhetorics they are preaching and certain things, and they come off as facts, but if you look at it very well, it's just an emotionally charged information they are giving you, and because you somewhat are emotionally connected to it, you accept it as truth without even doing the necessary research to even come to the conclusion of whether this is true or not. And it's happening rampant. And these politicians are also feeding on that. And we can talk about the OG socially engineered tool, which is propaganda, which is one of the heavy tools that these our leaders, our political leaders, our government leaders, and other things that use to be able to control people, control their behavior, control the way they consume things, control the way they vote, and all that. So my point about this whole thing is the fact that we need to come to a point where we take a step back, especially if you're conscious enough to have a logical thought. Just take a step back and start asking questions and start doing research on things rather than just believing things blindly from these leaders and people who clearly have proven to us time and time again that they don't necessarily care about the life being the well-being of their people or their citizens of the country. Rather, they're just there because of the lust of power, the lust of money that is being now heavily, supported by corruption and other things. So my point about all this is just take your time and just please again, just go back a bit and just start thinking about things really well. Take everything your leaders or your political leaders or whatnot, take it with a pinch of salt and do your independent research to verify it before you take it as gospel. Talking about gospel, let's come to the religious part of it. So religious social engineering is, let's say, it's had its days. They have good ones, they have bad ones. And I really like the importance of what religion has done for this world. But we also can't deny the bad things religion has also done for this world, especially on this continent, right? Where some people are made to believe that you suffering is just a sign that there's something better for you, in the next life and other things. And it just absolves accountability, which is unacceptable. People are in poverty. People are in so many things. And we can see other leaders in these institutions, the religious institutions, taking advantage of that, enriching themselves. They're telling people to bring their widow's mite and everything. And they do it in belief that their suffering is justified and what you're doing is what God wants them to do. But it's just another way of control where people, and the thing is, you need to, the point about religion and everything is the fact that you need to have a personal relationship with God himself. Not necessarily, your pastor is not your God. It's supposed to be a medium to him, not necessarily, God or Jesus or, whatever faith you believe in. It's supposed to be something that when you listen to these people, you need to have also an independent discernment where you think about it and whether, okay, maybe, you don't necessarily have to accept everything they say as gospel, which is a very controversial statement to make. But we've seen, for instance, in our country where you see a congregation of close to, pastors have a congregation of these days 15,000, 20,000, 10,000, 5,000 and all that. And the majority of the people, they are proper, like poor people who go to church every day, or let's say 5 times in a week, and they give their widow's mite to the pastor. Pastor enriches themselves, buy the latest cars, drive stay in the mansions and everything, and they are, what would you call it? Their congregation are just poor. They're just paupers who just trying to scrape by every day. But the justification is the fact that it's all for a bigger purpose. And why is the bigger purpose not you as an individual, where you build yourself up? And if you're even going according to the Bible, isn't your body the temple of God? Why won't you take care of yourself in that sense? Why are you taking care of, anyway, that's just what I'm trying to say is the level of socially engineered programs that are used to manipulate, especially in the religious faction, manipulate people to do ridiculous things that are detrimental to the well-being of your body, your soul, and your mind, should be something that should be talked about, and it should be something that should be frowned upon, because religion is not supposed to be it's not supposed to be a tool that should abuse and to use people. It's supposed to be something that should heal your soul, to give refreshment to your soul, to give refreshment to your consciousness, not the other way around. And I hope you think about it and just try and change your mindset in that sense. I think most of us have watched the Matrix show. They say blue pill, red pill in that sense, right? And it's been on social media everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. But there are parallels to this, in terms of there are similarities, where like we are all in a certain socially engineered program that we are unconscious about. And my hope is the fact that you find your way out of it. You start questioning things, you start doing things in a certain different way that will be for the betterment of yourself, and if you're genuine enough, for the betterment of your society. So the reason for this topic is, are we socially engineered? And the answer is yes, on so many aspects. Some are good, some are bad. The discernment is entirely up to you. So let me hear your opinions about it in the comment section. And thank you for listening to my ramble again. Peace.